Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Leonard Brooks. I am 30 years old, and I turned 30 yesterday. I have been talking about this birthday for months. There was something about the number that made me feel like it should be a milestone, like I should be able to look at my life and say, yes, I have built something solid by now. My wife, Jasmine, knew that. We had talked about it late at night in bed, on long drives, even while grocery shopping when someone asked if we had any big plans. I wanted it to matter, not in an extravagant way, but in a way that felt seen. The morning of my birthday, I woke up expecting something. It did not have to be a giant surprise or some over-the-top gesture. I would have been happy with breakfast in bed, a card with her messy handwriting, or even just her rolling over, kissing me on the forehead, and saying, "Happy birthday, Leo." Instead, I woke up to the dim light of our bedroom in Chicago, the sound of the heat clicking on, and the empty space beside me. I lay there for a minute, staring at the ceiling, listening for the faint clatter of dishes or the coffee maker. Nothing. Eventually I grabbed my phone. No messages from Jasmine. No, "Happy birthday, old man," text waiting on my lock screen. I checked the time. It was just after 8. She was not a morning person, I reminded myself. Maybe she was in the kitchen and had just forgotten a text. I pushed myself out of bed, stretched, and walked downstairs. Jasmine was sitting at the kitchen table, still in her leggings and oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled up in a loose bun. The sunlight coming through the window lit up the side of her face, but her eyes were locked on her phone. She did not look up when I walked in. No balloons, no card, no cake, no candles, just the faint glow of her screen. "Morning," she said, still scrolling. Her tone was flat, casual, the same way she sounded any random Tuesday when we were both rushing to work. I waited for the rest of the sentence, for the words I had been expecting since I opened my eyes. They did not come. "Morning," I replied, trying to keep my voice normal. I opened the fridge just to have something to do with my hands. A cold blast of air hit me as I stared at leftover takeout, eggs, and a carton of orange juice. No cake, no surprise. I poured myself some juice, feeling that quiet, growing pressure in my chest that comes right before disappointment fully settles in. Jasmine finally stood up, grabbed her purse from the chair, and slipped on her sneakers. "Hey, I am running late," she said, sliding her phone into her bag. "I have to go meet my friend for brunch. I will be back later." I blinked at her. "It is Tuesday," I said. "You took off work." I already knew she had, because we talked about it last month. We had circled the date on our shared calendar. I had imagined us doing something together. "Yeah," Jasmine said, shrugging. "I needed a day. I am exhausted. I will see you tonight, okay?" She leaned over, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek that felt like an automatic gesture rather than a deliberate choice, and then headed for the door. I stood there with my glass of orange juice in my hand, watching her walk out. The front door clicked shut. There had been no happy birthday, not even a joking comment about me being old. Just a regular, bland morning. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the spot where she had been sitting, the faint ring from her coffee mug still on the wood. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed on the table. It was my brother, Jerome. "Happy 30th, bro. Big day. What did Jasmine get you?" he wrote. The words hit me like a slap. Until that moment, I had been trying to convince myself that maybe I had missed something, that maybe there was some quiet plan I had not noticed. Seeing Jerome's text made it real. Either she had truly forgotten, or she was pretending to forget. I typed out, "Not sure yet, man. Have not seen anything," then stared at it and deleted it. I did not want to lie, but I also did not want to admit to my own brother that my wife seemed to have completely skipped over my birthday. Instead, I texted back, "Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Everyone is early today," and left it at that. He sent a bunch of confetti emojis and started joking about me needing a cane now. The rest of the morning, I worked from home at the dining table. My company was fine with remote days, and I tried to bury myself in emails and spreadsheets. My mom called around 10. She sang slightly off-key, like she always did when she left a birthday message. My dad called later, telling me he was proud of the man I had become. Friends texted from high school and college. Everyone remembered. Everyone except the one person who shared my bed, my house, and my life. Around 4 in the afternoon, That uneasy pressure in my chest had turned into something sharper. Jasmine still had not texted. No picture brunch. No sorry. It is a surprise. I will see you tonight. Nothing. I stare at my laptop screen, but could not focus. Finally, I opened the location sharing app on my phone. Jasmine was the one who had insisted we share locations a couple of years ago, said it made her feel safer when she traveled for work or came home late. Her dot popped up on the map in an instant. She was not at a restaurant. She was not at a spa or at a park or at one of our friends' houses. The little blue pin sat firmly on a hotel in downtown Chicago, not far from the river. The name of the hotel glowed back at me like a neon accusation. I zoomed in to make sure I had it right. There was no mistaking it. She was at a hotel. My stomach dropped. A cold wave rolled through me from head to toe. I tapped her contact and hit the call button. The phone rang once, then cut straight to voicemail. No ring on her end. No chance for her to ignore it. It was already silenced or turned off. I stared at her contact photo on the screen, the one where she was laughing at a barbecue last summer, then hung up. In that moment, I had choices. I could have grabbed my keys, driven downtown, marched into that hotel, and demanded to know what room she was in. I could have caused a scene in the lobby, yelled, cried, begged, whatever my emotions decided to do once I got there. Instead, something in me went very still. I opened my laptop, searched the hotel name, found the phone number, and dialed. The line rang twice before a cheerful voice answered. "Good afternoon, Lakeside Riverfront Hotel. This is the front desk. How may I help you today?" I said, keeping my voice even. "This is going to sound unusual, but my wife is staying in one of your rooms, and it is my birthday today. I would like to send her a surprise cake. Could you help me with that?" The front desk clerk laughed lightly. "Oh, that sounds sweet. We can definitely arrange that. Do you know her room number?" "I actually do not," I said. "But her name is on the reservation. Her name is Jasmine Brooks." I spelled it out slowly, listening to the tapping of keys on the other end. There was a short pause. Then the clerk said, "Found her. She is in room 304. We can have a small cake sent up from our restaurant. When would you like it delivered?" I stared at the grain in the dining table for a moment, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. "As soon as possible," I answered. "Can you do it within the next 30 minutes?" "Absolutely," the clerk replied. "And would you like a message written on the cake?" I thought for maybe 3 seconds. It felt like the entire last 6 years of my life passed through my mind in that brief gap. Our first date at a coffee shop on the south side, our wedding day, the night we signed the mortgage papers for the house, the way she fell asleep with her head on my chest. All of it crashed into the present moment, where she was at a hotel on my 30th birthday. "Yes," I said. "Please write, 'Happy birthday, me. Enjoy the divorce.'" There was silence for a beat. I could practically feel the clerk blinking on the other end of the line. "Sir," she said cautiously, "are you sure that is the message you want?" "I am completely sure," I replied. My voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. "That is exactly what I want." "All right," she said softly. "We will have it delivered within the hour. The cake will be $65. I will need a card number for the charge." I gave her my information, confirmed the spelling, and thanked her. When I hung up, my hands were trembling slightly, but my mind felt clear. I sat there for a moment in the silence of the house, then opened my contacts and called the divorce attorney my colleague Damon had used last year when his marriage ended. It went to voicemail. I left a message explaining that I needed a consultation as soon as possible, gave a brief outline. Wife at a hotel on my 30th birthday, suspicious behavior, shared assets, and asked for a call back. Then I set my phone face down on the table and waited. At 5:43 in the evening, my phone started buzzing repeatedly. Jasmine's name lit up on the screen. I let it ring. She called again. And again. My chest tightened, but I turned the phone over so I would not have to watch it flash. Then the text started coming in rapid bursts. "Leonard, what is wrong with you?" she wrote. "Why would you do this? You are embarrassing me. Call me right now. This is not funny." The messages grew more frantic as the minutes passed. "You are being childish. Answer your phone. We need to talk. What is your problem?" I did not respond to any of them. Instead, I took screenshots, one after another, saving every message and making sure they were backed up in the cloud. It felt cold, methodical, but it also felt necessary. I had already decided the direction this day was going to take. Around 6 o'clock, my phone rang again, this time from a number I did not recognize. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello. What is wrong with you? A woman's voice snapped immediately. Leonard, seriously, what is your problem? Her voice sounded high and sharp with anger. Who is this? I asked. My tone was calm, almost bored. This is Latoya, she said. I am Jasmine's friend. You just humiliated her in front of everyone. Everyone. I repeated. That is interesting. I thought she said she was just with you, having a friend's day. There was silence for a few seconds on the other end. Latoya recovered quickly, but I heard the hitch. You are a psychopath, she said. She deserves better than this. Then she can have better without being married to me, I replied. I did not wait for an answer. I ended the call, exhaled slowly, and stood up. Something in me shifted from hurt to resolve right then. At 7 in the evening, my phone buzzed again. This time it was the attorney, Mr. Caldwell, calling back. I walked into the living room, sat on the couch, and answered. I explained the entire situation as plainly as I could. My milestone birthday, no acknowledgement, her abrupt brunch plans, the hotel downtown, the cake, the frantic texts. When I got to the part about the cake, he chuckled softly. So you sent a divorce message on a birthday cake to a hotel where your wife was staying with. Who exactly? He asked. That is a great question, I said. All I know for sure is that it was not me. Well, he replied, I can see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in my office. Bring any financial documents you have, mortgage papers, bank statements, anything related to valuable property. We will talk strategy and see where you stand. I will be there, I said. After we hung up, I opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat in the living room with the television on, not really watching anything. The house felt strange, familiar but hollow, like someone had taken a knife and sliced a thin layer off every memory inside it. Jasmine came home around 9:30 that night. I heard her key in the lock, the door opening, her footsteps in the entryway. She walked into the living room like a storm cloud, eyes red, face tight with anger. What the hell was that? She demanded. I took a sip of my beer, then looked over at her. A cake for my birthday, I said evenly, since you forgot. Jasmine's eyes flashed. I did not forget, she snapped. I was planning a surprise party for this weekend. You ruined everything. Interesting, I said slowly. Which hotel was the surprise party booked at? Her face flushed, a dark red spreading up from her neck to her cheeks. I was not. It is not what you think, Jasmine stammered. We were just hanging out with friends. Someone got a room, so we could keep the party going. You tracked me like a stalker. That is not normal behavior. You are the one who insisted we share locations, I reminded her. And yes, I checked my wife's location on my 30th birthday when she disappeared to a hotel instead of being with me. Wild concept, I know. Nothing happened, she insisted. Her voice cracked slightly. We were just drinking, talking. It was harmless. Someone got a room? I repeated. Who is someone? She looked away, her jaw tightening. She did not answer. Was that someone's name on the cake receipt? I continued. Because room 304 was registered under your name. The hotel was very clear about that. It was a group thing, Jasmine said finally. We all chipped in for the room. It was just supposed to be fun, Leonard. You are blowing this out of proportion. Here's the thing, I said, standing up. I have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow morning. You should probably get your own. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. You are seriously doing this over a misunderstanding? She whispered, her voice trembling. Over one bad day. You forgot my 30th birthday, I said quietly, feeling the words settle between us like bricks. You spent the day at a hotel instead of with me. You ignore my calls. And when I called you on it, your first reaction was to worry about being embarrassed, not about what you actually did. If that is a misunderstanding, it is the kind that does not get fixed with flowers. Jasmine's tears spilled over. It was just a bad day, she said. I have been stressed. You know how work has been. You cannot throw away 4 years of marriage over one mistake. Watch me, I said. I walked past her, down the hallway, into the guest room. I closed the door and locked it. For about 30 minutes, she knocked and cried and begged through the wood. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to each word with a weird sense of detachment. Eventually, the knocking stopped. I fell asleep faster than I had in months. 3 days later, I was sitting in Mr. Caldwell's office in a high-rise, overlooking the city, a folder of documents on my lap. He wore a dark suit, glasses, and had the calm, unshakable demeanor of someone who had watched a lot of marriages unravel and knew the patterns by heart. He went through my papers methodically. Our mortgage information, my retirement account statements, my pay stubs, our joint checking, and then the separate account I kept for my side projects. "You are in a reasonably good position," he said finally, folding his hands on the desk. "The house is in both your names, but you put down 80% of the down payment, correct?" "Yes," I said. "I used money from my grandfather's life insurance. I kept that payout in a separate account until we bought the house 2 years ago." "That matters," he said. "We will want to show a clear trail of where that money came from. It can affect how the equity in the house is divided. Now, what about other significant assets? Anything collectible, any vehicles, investments, that sort of thing?" "The big thing is the pinball machines," I said. "I collect and restore vintage pinball machines. It started as a hobby 8 years ago, before I even met Jasmine. I have 6 fully restored machines in the garage. They are worth about $45,000 altogether. I bought them all myself, either before we got married or with my own money that I can document. I also have 2 more I am restoring. Those will probably be worth another $15,000 once they are done." Mr. Caldwell's eyebrows rose slightly. "That is a serious hobby," he said. "Do you have receipts for the purchases and documentation about the restoration work?" "Yes," I replied. "I keep everything. Photos, receipts, serial numbers, restoration logs, appraisals. I track my hours, parts, even the before and after values." "Good," he said. "Those machines are likely your separate property, but it will be important to document that thoroughly. Take time this week to photograph each machine, front and back, note serial numbers, gather all receipts, and organize your restoration notes. The more detailed we are, the harder it will be for anyone to argue their marital property." I spent that afternoon in the garage, doing exactly that. The space smelled like metal, dust, and faint machine oil. I moved from machine to machine. The 1978 8-ball, the 1980 Firepower, the older ones I had rescued from basements and shuttered arcades, taking photos, zooming in on plates and labels, opening panels to show internal work I had done. The rhythmic click of the camera on my phone felt almost therapeutic. Jasmine was staying at her parents' house at that point, giving me space, as she put it in one of her last texts. I had not responded. It was peaceful without her constant presence and the emotional whiplash that came with it. I listened to music while I worked, letting the familiar motions calm me. Around early evening, my phone buzzed repeatedly. The notifications were from an unknown number, but the messages were clearly from her mother. "How could you humiliate my daughter like that?" The first one read, "She made one mistake, and you are throwing away a marriage over a birthday. She is devastated." I stared at the messages for a moment, then typed a single reply. "She spent my 30th birthday at a hotel under her name while I was at home," I wrote. "I sent a cake. Now I'm sending divorce papers. Please direct any future communication through her attorney." Then I blocked the number. The quiet that followed felt like fresh air. On the 4th day, Jasmine showed up at the house. I was in the garage with the 1978 8-ball machine open, soldering a connection on one of the boards. I heard the garage door open and close, then her footsteps. "We need to talk," she said, hovering near the doorway. I did not look up immediately. "Talk to my lawyer," I said, focusing on the wire in my hand. "Leonard, stop being dramatic," Jasmine said. I could hear the frustration in her voice. "I told you nothing happened. We were just hanging out. You are overreacting." I set the tools down and finally turned to face her. "Who was in the room, Jasmine?" I asked. She pressed her lips together and did not respond. "That is what I thought," I said quietly. "It was my friend's boyfriend's friend," she said after a moment. "We were all just hanging out. It was not like that." "Your friend's boyfriend's friend got a hotel room on a Tuesday," I said, "and you happened to be at that hotel on my birthday, which you conveniently forgot. That is what you're going with." "I did not forget," she snapped. "I was planning something for the weekend. I told you that. You sabotaged it." "Even if I believe that," I replied, "you still chose to spend the actual day of my 30th birthday at a hotel with other people instead of with me. That alone tells me everything I need to know about your priorities." Jasmine looked around the garage, eyes landing on the rows of machines. "So that is it?" she asked. "For years gone? Just like that?" "Yes," I said. "That is it." Her expression hardened. "Fine," she said. "Then I want half of those." She pointed at the pinball machines lined up against the walls. "And half the house. And spousal support, since I make less than you. I'm not going to walk away with nothing after everything I have put up with in this marriage." There it was. The real reason she had come back. "Talk to my lawyer," I repeated calmly. "Those machines are not yours. They were all purchased with my money, either before we were married or with inheritance funds that I kept separate. I have receipts. You used to call them garage trash last year, remember?" "That is not fair," Jasmine said sharply. "I supported you while you wasted money on them. I could have said no to you filling our garage with this stuff." "I did not waste money," I said. "I invested in something that has appreciated significantly. And I supported this marriage financially and emotionally while you were cultivating a workout buddy at the gym." Her eyes narrowed. "You are being vindictive," she said. "You are not even trying to work this out." "I'm being smart," I answered. "There is a difference." Jasmine's shoulders sagged. She shifted tactics, softening her voice. "Baby, please," she said. "Can we just talk about this? Really talk. No lawyers. No threats. Just us. We can fix this. I love you. I messed up. I am sorry. We can go to counseling." "There is nothing to talk about," I said. "You are asking me to try to believe your story. To forgive you for spending my birthday at a hotel and then immediately planning how to take half my things. That is not a foundation for counseling. That is a foundation for resentment." Jasmine's eyes filled again. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked quietly. "You are kicking me out of my house." "Our house." "Your parents seemed welcoming," I said. "I am not kicking you out. We will either sell and split the proceeds, or one of us will buy the other out. My lawyer will send options. If you cannot afford to buy me out, then selling it is. I will move to an apartment." She stood there, waiting for me to soften. For years, that had worked. I would see her cry, feel guilty, and fold. This time, I picked up my tools and turned back to the open machine. Eventually, she left. 2 days later, I was served with her attorney's papers. She was asking for half the house's value, which was fair enough. Half my retirement account, including everything I had earned long before we were married. Half the value of all pinball machines, which she estimated at $30,000, still lower than their true worth. 3 years of spousal support, and my covering the car payment on her vehicle, which was unfortunately in my name thanks to a mistake I had made 2 years earlier. Mr. Caldwell reviewed the documents, lips pressed together. "This is aggressive but not unusual," he said. "We will counter. The pinball machines are your separate property, and we can prove that. 3 years of spousal support is unreasonable given the length of the marriage and her ability to work. The car is annoying, but we will address it. Let's talk about your documentation again." Over the next week, things somehow became messier. I learned from Jerome, who heard it from his girlfriend Maya, who heard it from one of Jasmine's coworkers, that the friend's boyfriend's friend from the hotel was actually a guy from Jasmine's gym. His name was Trent. He was her workout partner and had been for about 6 months. They often spent hours together there. I texted Jasmine that night. "Workout buddy from the gym for 6 months," I wrote. "Want to revise your story?" She replied quickly. "Who told you that? That is a lie." I answered, "Trent is a very specific lie, Jasmine." There was a pause. "We're just friends," she wrote. "You are twisting this. There is nothing going on. You are ruining everything over your imagination." I stared at the screen, anger simmering beneath the calm. "Just like you were just friends at the hotel on my birthday?" I replied, "Nothing happened, right? You just talked in a hotel room that you paid for on the day you forgot my birthday." She responded, "I did not forget. I told you. I was planning something for the weekend." I sent one more message. "It has been 5 days. Where's my surprise party?" She did not answer. Her father called the next day. His voice was quieter than his wife's, more measured. "Leonard," he said, "I know Jasmine made some mistakes, but do you not think divorce is a little extreme? Maybe you two should slow down, think this through." "With all respect, sir," I said, "your daughter spent my milestone birthday at a hotel with another man and ignored me completely. What would you do if you were in my situation?" There was a long silence on his end. "I would be angry," he admitted finally. "Very angry. Right now, I am handling this as calmly and legally as I can," I said. "She is entitled to her fair share of the marital assets, and she will get that. But I am not staying in a marriage where I am treated as an afterthought." "She says you are taking everything from her," he said quietly. I'm taking what is mine, I replied. She will have her share of the house sale and the retirement contributions made during the marriage. That is the law. The pinball machines belong to me. They were always mine. That is the reality. He sighed heavily. She has been a mess since you filed, he said. I do not know how this is going to end, but I hope you both find some peace. I will not push you to change your mind. I just wanted to hear your side. I appreciate that, I said. After we hung up, I realized I did feel a little lighter. Not better, exactly, but more certain. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a strange rhythm. I moved through my days at work, taking meetings, writing reports, answering emails, and then came home to a house that no longer felt like ours but mine alone for the time being. I started eating more regularly, actually cooking instead of grabbing whatever was easy. The constant tension that had been the marriage for months, the little digs, the unexplained absences, the late-night arguments, faded away. I dove deeper into the restoration of a 1980 Firepower machine I had recently picked up. My evenings were filled with the sharp smell of solder, the soft clink of tools, and the satisfying snap of panels closing into place. Keeping busy helped. Each fixed connection, each glowing light, felt like a tiny reclamation of control. About 5 weeks into the process, Jasmine officially moved out. Her parents helped her load her clothes, shoes, and personal items into a rented truck. She tried to take the 65-inch television from the living room, the one I bought 2 months before we even met. I walked into the room and pulled out the original receipt from the folder I had prepared. That television was purchased before we were even dating, I said calmly. It is mine. You are not taking it. Jasmine rolled her eyes and called me petty. Her mother muttered that I was selfish. Her father told them both to stop, that I was within my rights, and urged them to focus on her belongings. They left a half hour later, the house quieter than it had been in years. Then came the depositions. Mr. Caldwell explained what to expect: a conference room, a court reporter, both attorneys, and questions under oath. Just answer honestly, he said. Keep your answers direct. Do not volunteer extra information. Stay calm, no matter what angle they take. Jasmine's attorney tried to paint me as controlling and vindictive. He asked about the cake in a slow, deliberate tone, like he was setting a trap. You sent a cake to your wife with a message about divorce, correct? He said. I sent a cake to my wife on my birthday, I answered, a birthday she ignored while she was at a hotel. And on that cake, you wrote, "Happy birthday to me. Enjoy the divorce," he pressed. Would you agree that this message was designed to humiliate her in front of her friends? The message stated the truth, I said. It was my birthday. I was planning to file for divorce. If anyone was humiliated, that was a result of her choices, not my cake. You do not think that was cruel? He asked. I think forgetting your husband's milestone birthday and spending it at a hotel with another man is cruel, I replied. Compared to that, a cake is mild. I heard Mr. Caldwell suppress a small laugh beside me. They moved on to the pinball machines. Jasmine's attorney tried to argue that because some of the restoration work had been done during the marriage, the increased value was marital property. I explained, again, that the machines were purchased either before the marriage or with funds from my grandfather's inheritance, which I had kept separate and could document. I talked about my logs, my receipts, my before and after appraisals. Your wife supported you while you pursued this hobby, correct? Her attorney asked. She allowed you to use marital space and resources for these machines. My wife called them garbage and a waste of space multiple times, I said. I have text messages where she referred to them as junk in the garage and said she wished I would sell them. If you would like, those can be produced. Mr. Caldwell smiled outright at that. Jasmine's deposition was harder to sit through. I had to listen as she described our marriage, minimized her actions, and twisted events to frame herself as a victim. But then Mr. Caldwell began his questions, and the room shifted. You were at the Lakeside Riverfront Hotel on your husband's 30th birthday, correct? He asked. Yes, Jasmine said quietly. Why were you there? He continued. My friends and I were celebrating, she said. Just hanging out. It was supposed to be a girls' day. Celebrating what, exactly? He asked. Nothing specific, she replied. Just time together. We all needed a break. Were there men present in the hotel room or at that gathering? He asked. Some friends brought their boyfriends, Jasmine said after a pause. Was there a man named Trent there? He asked. The man from a gym. Yes, she said, her voice tight. He was there. How do you know Trent? Mr. Caldwell asked. From a gym, Jasmine answered. We work out together sometimes. How long have you known him? He asked. About 6 months, she said. Would you describe him as a close friend? He asked. We are just workout partners, she said defensively. It is not that deep. Did you tell your husband about him? Mr. Caldwell asked. It never came up, she replied. In 6 months, it never came up that you were spending multiple hours a week with another man, he said. You did not think that was relevant to your marriage. I did not think it mattered, she said, blinking rapidly. We were just friends. You were making it sound like something it was not. Did anything romantic or physical happen between you and Trent at the hotel? He asked directly. No, Jasmine said quickly. We were just friends. We were all there together. It was not like that. Were you alone with him at any point? He continued, voice steady. There was a long pause. We talked in the hallway for a bit, she said. That is all. Just the hallway, he asked. Another pause stretched out. And in the room briefly, she added finally. But other people were there too. It was never just us alone behind closed doors. Mr. Caldwell slid a stack of printed text messages across the table. They were from Trent's phone, obtained legally during discovery. Messages from one of Trent's friends to another read. He finally got her to the hotel, and about time. And she said she should leave her husband soon. Jasmine's face went pale as she read the pages. Those do not mean anything, she said. They're just jokes between guys. They twist everything. He was confused about you saying you would leave your husband. Mr. Caldwell asked, Are you saying you never said that to Trent? I never said that, she insisted. He misunderstood. So this text is fabricated, he asked. You are accusing him of lying under oath and falsifying evidence. She swallowed hard and did not answer. When the deposition ended, she looked like she had seen a ghost. 2 days later, I received a social media message from a woman named Erica. She introduced herself as Trent's ex-girlfriend. I just wanted you to know she is not innocent in this. The message started. They had been texting for months and meeting up outside the gym. She told him she was in a dead marriage and looking for a way out. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. She attached screenshots, months of flirty texts, Jasmine complaining about me, planning lunches, discussing when they could see each other. Nothing explicitly graphic, but far beyond innocent friendship. Emotional affair at the very least, building toward something else. I forwarded everything to Mr. Caldwell. This is helpful, he said. Even if your state is technically no fault, evidence of this kind can still influence decisions about spousal support. It reinforces the narrative that she is not the dependent, wrong party here. It shows choices. The week after that, Jasmine tried a new tactic. I had moved out of the house by then to speed the sale and was living in a small but decent apartment not far from my office. One evening, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Jasmine was standing there, holding her bag, eyes red. Can I come in? She asked. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. No, I said. I stepped into the doorway, blocking the entrance. If you have something to say, you can say it from there. She took a shaky breath. I need to tell you something, she said. I am pregnant. The floor seemed to tilt slightly under me. What? I said. How far along? 2 months, she answered. I just found out. I did the math automatically. 2 months put conception right around my birthday, right around the time of the hotel. My mind immediately went to Trent. Is it mine? I asked slowly, or Trent's? Her face crumpled. How can you even ask that? She said. That is disgusting. Of course it is yours. We were together 2 months ago. You know that. We had been, once right before the birthday. But I also knew she had been talking to Trent regularly. 2 months ago once, I said, how many times have you been with him since then? She shook her head quickly. I have not been with him at all, she said. We never did anything. Those texts do not prove anything physical happened. I would not lie about something like this. So you're saying the baby is definitely mine, I said. She nodded. Yes, she said. It is yours. I need you to be there. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can start over for the baby's sake. Please, Leonard, do not let our child grow up in a broken home. Here is what I am willing to do, I said, keeping my voice steady. When the baby is born, we will do a paternity test. If the child is mine, I will take responsibility. I will handle child support and be involved as a father. If the child is not mine, then it is not my responsibility. Either way, I am not staying married to you. You are not even going to consider getting back together, she asked, tears streaming down her face. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit, I said. My child would grow up with a father who respects himself. That is better than watching their father get stepped on repeatedly. I made a mistake, Jasmine said, voice breaking. People make mistakes. Can you not forgive me? No, I said. I cannot. I stepped back and closed the door gently but firmly. She stayed out there for a while, sniffling, then eventually left. When I told Mr. Caldwell about the pregnancy claim, he grew more serious. If the child is yours, everything changes, he said. Custody, child support, future contact. It complicates things significantly. But you are right not to make decisions before knowing the truth. We will require a paternity test as part of any agreement related to the child. Until then, nothing baby-related goes into the settlement. Jasmine's attorney soon sent a letter insisting she needed the house because the baby needed a stable environment and that I should cover all medical expenses plus additional funds in the settlement. Mr. Caldwell's response was crisp. Paternity test required before any baby-related considerations, he wrote. Client is willing to discuss custody and support for his biological child only. Her attorney fired back an indignant letter about how insulting it was to demand a paternity test, implying that it questioned her integrity. Mr. Caldwell simply noted, then she should not have been at a hotel with another man on her husband's birthday, and let the silence do the rest. There was no further push on that point. Meanwhile, the house sold. After paying off the mortgage and fees, we each walked away with about $62,000. It was less than I had hoped, considering my heavy initial contribution, but still a decent amount. I used my share to pay off some smaller debts, build a stronger emergency fund, and furnish my new apartment in a way that felt like mine. Moving the pinball machines was a logistical nightmare. They were heavy and delicate, and I did not trust just any moving company with them. I hired a specialized crew that dealt with arcade equipment, supervised the wrapping and loading, and then spent hours setting them up in the spare room of my new place. By the time they were all lined up, lights flickering, sounds echoing softly, the room looked like a small arcade. A few weeks later, once everything was in place, I invited some friends over for a pinball tournament. Jerome came, along with Maya and a couple of guys from work. One of Jerome's friends brought his sister, Alicia, who was into retro gaming. She had grown up playing in arcades in Detroit and knew more about high scores and classic titles than most people I had ever met. Alicia and I ended up talking for nearly 3 hours that night about old arcades, the history of pinball, and the weird satisfaction of bringing something broken back to life. She asked detailed questions about each machine, ran her hand along the polished side art, and listened intently when I explained the challenges of restoring specific components. Before she left, Jerome nudged me and whispered that I should get her number. I hesitated, then asked. She smiled and put her number in my phone. I was not ready to jump into anything serious, and I told her that up front when we texted later that week. I am fresh out of a mess, I wrote. I'm still figuring out what my life looks like now. She replied that she understood, that she was fine with keeping things light, that she just enjoyed talking about games and hanging out. It felt easy in a way I had not experienced in a long time. As for the divorce, the trial was scheduled for 2 months out unless we settled beforehand. Jasmine's demands had become more modest. It was clear someone had finally given her a realistic picture of what a judge was likely to grant. She shifted to asking for her agreed half of the house proceeds, 30% of the retirement contributions made during our marriage instead of $58,000 for the pinball machines instead of the earlier inflated estimate, 1 year of spousal support of $500 a month, and for me to keep paying her car loan until it was paid off in 18 months. Mr. Caldwell drafted our counteroffer. Her half of the house proceeds, which had already been settled, 35% of the retirement contributions during the marriage, splitting the difference, $0 for the pinball machines, since they were documented separate property, 0 spousal support, since she was employed full-time and the marriage had been relatively short, and transferring the car title and loan to her name, making her fully responsible for payments. We are close, he said, looking up from the documents. The main sticking point is the pinball machines. She is emotionally attached to the idea of getting something from them, because she is angry you value them and fought to keep them. She is framing tolerance as entitlement. We're not moving on that. Tolerating someone's hobby does not entitle you to it in court. Weeks passed with back-and-forth negotiations. Despite her insistence, we held firm. Every time she tried to drag the machines into the conversation, we came back with the same answer: separate property, documented down to serial numbers, acquisition dates, and sources of funds. Eventually, Jasmine relented when her own attorney finally told her it was a losing battle. The baby situation resolved itself in a way that was both abrupt and oddly quiet. 2 weeks after Mr. Caldwell formally demanded paternity testing and medical records as part of any custody or support discussions, Jasmine's attorney sent a curt email informing us that she had experienced a miscarriage. There were no details, no medical reports, just the statement. Mr. Caldwell raised an eyebrow when he read it. Given the timing, he said, "It is possible she was never pregnant and hoped the idea would give her leverage. It is also possible she was pregnant and truly lost it. We cannot know without records. Legally, it does not matter now. There is no child to account for in the agreement." I felt a mix of emotions I cannot fully untangle. If she had lied about being pregnant, it was one more manipulation in a long line of them, and the anger that stirred inside me was sharp. If she had been pregnant and lost the baby, even if there were questions about paternity, that was tragic in its own right. In either case, I decided not to pursue the truth. Whatever had happened was no longer tied to my future. The only clear thing was that the child would not exist and would not be a legal factor in our lives. Eventually, we reached a settlement agreement and avoided trial. The final terms were straightforward. We split the proceeds from the house sale, each getting our $62,000. Jasmine received 35% of my retirement contributions from during the marriage, about $18,000 in total. She got nothing from the pinball machines. They were explicitly recognized as my separate property. She received no spousal support. The car loan and title were transferred fully into her name. She would be solely responsible for the payments going forward. The judge signed off on everything at a brief hearing. When I walked out of the courthouse into the cool air for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of quiet in my head. Not joy exactly, not triumph, just clarity. The legal fees, in total, cost me about $8,500. It was a significant amount of money, but every time I thought about it, I also thought about that cake, that hotel room, that hollow ache in my chest when I realized my wife had treated my 30th birthday like just another day. The money felt like the price of freedom, and I was willing to pay it. A week after the divorce was finalized, Jasmine sent me one last email. "I know you hate me," she wrote. "I do not blame you. I need you to know that I am sorry. I should have been honest from the start. I should have cared more about your feelings. I hope that someday you can forgive me." I read it twice, felt the old ache stir, and then deleted it without replying. There was nothing left to say. Life did not miraculously become perfect after that, but it became mine again. I got into a routine in my new apartment. Work during the day, pinball restoration in the evenings, the occasional dinner with friends, or a movie night with Jerome and Maya. The pinball room became my favorite place in the world. The machines hummed and lit up around me, a constant reminder of things I had created and preserved with my own hands. Alicia started coming by occasionally to help troubleshoot stubborn issues or just to play a few games. One evening, we spent an hour trying to track down a problem with a solenoid on the 8-ball machine. She sat on the floor, flashlight in hand, handing me tools as I leaned into the cabinet. We ordered pizza, fixed the issue, and then played several rounds, laughing and cheering over high scores. She knew the full story by then. I had told her about Jasmine, the hotel, the cake, the depositions, the claimed pregnancy, all of it. I wanted to be transparent before whatever we were doing turned into something more. When I finished, she sat quietly for a moment, processing everything. "Well," she said finally, shaking her head with a small smile, "Jasmine is an absolute fool. I cannot believe she picked some random gym guy over someone who can bring a dead pinball machine back to life." I laughed, a real laugh that felt like it came from somewhere deep inside. Things with Alicia remained casual for a while, exactly how we had agreed. We watched old arcade documentaries, tried out vintage game consoles, went to a small arcade bar together to critique the condition of their machines. I noticed how relaxed I felt around her, how low the stakes seemed. There were no mind games, no half-truths, no shifting stories. Just conversations, jokes, and shared interests. Looking around my apartment one evening, I realized how much had changed in less than a year. I had lost a house, a marriage, some friends who chose Jasmine's version of events over mine, and a chunk of my retirement savings. But I had kept the things that mattered most to me: my self-respect, my ability to sleep at night, my sense of who I was when no one else was in the room, and yes, my pinball machines lined up in a glowing row. My 31st birthday was already on the horizon. Jerome insisted he was going to throw me a proper party, one that would not involve any secret hotel rooms or questionable brunch plans. Real friends, real celebration, he said when we talked about it over dinner. I had already decided that I was baking my own cake this time, just because I could. Sometimes I thought back to that afternoon at the dining table, my finger hovering over the hotel's phone number, my heart pounding as I decided what to write on that cake. It felt, in hindsight, like a hinge moment. The instant I said, "Happy birthday" to me, "Enjoy the divorce," out loud to a stranger on the phone, I chose myself. I chose not to beg, not to chase, not to twist myself into knots trying to salvage something that only looked whole from the outside. I heard later from someone who worked at the hotel's restaurant that the staff had been talking about that cake for days. The room service guy who delivered it to room 304 apparently read the message, raised an eyebrow, and walked away wondering what exactly he had just stepped into. For him, it was probably just another bizarre story from his job. For me, it was the start of an entirely different life. When I think about that day now, I do not picture Jasmine's shocked expression or the string of angry texts. I picture the cake, the precise lettering on top of the frosting, the absurdity and bluntness of the message. I picture myself standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, realizing that I deserved better than what I had been given. In the end, that $65 cake was the cleanest line I ever drew in my life. It was not about humiliating Jasmine. It was about telling the truth in the loudest, most undeniable way possible. My marriage ended that day, and everything that followed — lawyers, documents, moving boxes, new machines, late-night repairs, easy laughter in a small apartment — came from that moment when I decided I was done being treated like a background character in my own life. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.